hey,
All
great.
right. Shout out to the Patreons and the patrons. Is it patrons or Patreons?
See, that's I've never
Patrons.
actually heard what was it decided. So I just say patrons.
Yep.
Patrons. All right.
Yeah.
Shout out to the patrons. We got the Majestic Comics writing staff plus myself. I don't consider myself a part of the writing staff, even though I should. But I have Honey Dragon and Tombstone the Dead Man. We're going to discuss some Majestic Comics, little bird's eye view stuff. If you
Wait a
haven't
minute,
heard
where's
us discuss
Tombstone?
this sort of
That's I've
stuff.
been wanting to meet him for a while.
Oh, well, excuse me. That is Lord Entropy. Excuse me. But no, my thing is like I for anyone who's never heard us sort of talk, we tend to get in the weeds a lot. So
We do.
if there are things we say you don't understand, don't mind us. I'm sure we'll at some point elaborate. But I just
Leave
wanted
a
to have one of these
comment and ask us the question
conversations
too. So leave a
for
comment.
sure,
Ask
for
your
sure.
question. Yeah.
I just wanted to have one of these conversations so that the patrons can actually hear us and sort of what we talk about and how we talk about it. But I'll open up the floor. What do you guys want to get into first?
I know one of the things we wanted to kind of cover was process. Um, these stories, they come from a lot of different places. They get inspired by a lot of different places. Something that the great Chuck D from Public Enemy said years ago, that rappers need to know some stuff. If you don't know much, you won't rap about much. It's the same thing with this, right? So I consume a lot. Writings, movies, animated stuff, you name it, I consume it. Everything from science to history, all these topics. And all of it filters its way inevitably into what I write. So I could just literally see something, a YouTube video, and go, that gives me an idea for a story, right? And because
Mhm.
our worlds are so exhaustive, they can literally fit anything that you find in there, and it will feel like it's always been a part of that world.
Honey Dragon.
I would say almost the exact same. I'm very eclectic in the things that I consume and enjoy and am interested in. And it's a vast amount of topics. And as Tombstone, you said, anything from my daily life to a dream that I had to a conversation, a small one word can give me inspiration for something from movies or books or a show that I saw 10 years ago. Really, I feel like when you do have a certain type of creative mind, nothing is off limits for where you can draw inspiration from.
100%.
Yeah, there's this line in a cannabis. It's like a sample that he took, and I'm not sure who was saying it, but excuse me, he was at the end of a song, and basically he was talking about how the idea of having writer's block is something he can't understand, right? The idea of running out of things to write about is something that he just doesn't relate to. What he has a problem with is not being able to get everything down,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And like that's the way I often feel, is that I have too much creativity and I'll never get it all down. And so the stuff that people do hear about is like stuff like, wow, like you actually got that down in this wave of creative, like this torrent, this tidal wave. I don't know if anybody else goes through that, if you guys sort of go through that, but like that's a big deal for me.
It is. And one of the things I fear is that very thing about not being able to get it all down. So there's always like a sense of urgency that as soon as I get the idea, I need to put this down. I need to put this down because the way my brain works, I could be on to the next thing in another 10 minutes, right? And then I've lost that original idea. And then I will only have the vestiges of it left in my mind and go, wait a minute, what was I saying? Oh, and it's the same with that, with me and everything, from music and now, of course, writing fiction. It's the same thing. So I at least try to get it down. So if I come up with a character, something inspires me, and I come up with a character, I must work on that character right now and get it down on paper so that even if my ADHD pulls me into another direction, I have this on paper that I can always go back to and work on it. There's never a time where I don't have anything to work on creatively. There's never. I have too much to go. I can just jump from one thing to the next. If I've exhausted the dopamine on this particular project right now, I'll jump on another one and go, well, let me fix this, let me do that. Particularly nowadays with all the new tools and stuff that we got, there's never a time where I don't have something I could be doing creatively. It's just not.
Right.
Yeah, bullet points are my best friend because I forget things very quickly, and a lot of times it'll be waking up and immediately hopping onto my computer or not able to sleep and having to write things down, and sometimes I can't even get it all out because the thoughts are just going so quickly, so I just have to do bullet points, get out the main topics, and maybe I won't even remember that I did it, come back a couple years later and be like, oh my goodness, I need to do something with this.
That's crazy. It makes me think of something I was thinking about the other day about the creative process and how imagination and dream are kind of related.
Mm-hmm.
So like Honey Dragon's talking about not being able to get it all down. And I think of this idea of when you wake up from a dream and not being able to remember the actual dream.
Yes.
Right. But imagination is kind of like that too. You can imagine something like a broad version, a broad sort of overall bird's eye view of this thing, but try to dig down deeper on it and articulate it in analog space and time where there are rules and you got to breathe oxygen to say words. And you know what I mean? Like suddenly what was imagined almost becomes a proto version of itself, a lesser version of itself.
It's
I'm not even sure what to say, but it's like it's not the one-to-one of what that actually is. And I wonder about the realm in which we draw creativity from, what or wherever that is. Maybe it's the sort of inner human psyche, or if it's some other ethereal realm. But I do feel like often that I've said this to you guys, when I'm creating sometimes, I feel like I am a pencil or a pen or a paintbrush, and something is using me to paint things.
Right.
I don't feel like I'm necessarily in control. When creativity has a hold of me, I feel like I'm not driving.
Right. It's interesting that you say that, because there are times where I kind of compare it to so you have a map in your head of how to get back to your house, right? So you've gone there so many times, you don't need to look at the map anymore. You know, I go down this street, I make a right, go down, whatever. When creativity strikes, that's what it feels like to me. Like suddenly somebody downloaded a map in my head, and I now know where I need to go, what I need to create to get to the result that I want. But like you said earlier, depending on where that inspiration came from, by the time you get it down on paper, it still a lot of times feels like it's missing the intangible that only exists in the realm of thought, right? And then trying to crystallize that and realize that into actual story on paper can be difficult. But that's also why I value, one of the things we talked about before about the different things that you can get inspired from. You guys have no idea. Well, you guys do, but the people listening have no idea how many story elements, concepts, characters, arcs have all come from conversations with us. We're literally just having a meeting or conversation. We start discussing something, and you'd be surprised how much of the story that a lot of you guys have been kind enough to purchase from us came from just that thing. Even early on, me and Gray would go back and forth about the characters, and it was almost like the worlds were building themselves just through our conversations.
Yes, I fully agree with that, because just in the little bit that I've been with you guys on conversations that we three have had, or that Gray and I have had, or Tombstone that you and I have had, just from one single conversation, we have created entire backstories, generations. Like, it is
reality blocks.
Reality blocks. So yes, definitely inspiration, even just from us talking. So notes and bullet points. And as you were saying earlier, there was something that you said about when you have such a vast amount of material to pull from, and there's very little that has been put out, but it makes sense when you look at it from one of our perspectives and you see all the different things that go into creating this one story to make it cohesive.
Right.
And there's a lot into that, and there's a lot that goes into not just even building a story or building a character, but building an entire world. And often it does definitely seem like the world is simply being remembered, and we are
Yes.
just the ones transcribing it.
That's
Wow.
well put. Well put.
Well put. Yeah, I often think about, we put that disclaimer at the beginning of the book that, we have coming out pretty soon, the OBC book. Often I think about the power of the storysmith.
Yeah.
Like I think about the immense power and responsibility that comes with if you assume we have the ability to create these realities through a conversation.
Right.
Wow. We are the gods that can casually create realities through conversation.
Crazy.
It's so immense that we pretend we don't remember we're gods.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That's how intense it is.
Yeah.
The power that comes with this. I have taken a much greater responsibility in the worlds that I sort of create, the blocks that I create, because, hey, I don't know if this shit is real or not. If it is, I'd like to be a pretty decent god.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny when you say it that way too, because if you think about how stories are created, how concepts and characters, they start in states. So there's the earliest state of it, which is so very proto and vague. And what you're attempting to do is realize it, bring it all the way in. And that comes in stages. So you get it right up here in your head. And then you start talking about it more and it gets more and more crystallized. Then you start writing it down. And then as you continue, if you are one of those people that want to publish your work, because people create all the time and don't publish the stuff, right? But if you're one of the people who want to publish your work, that is another state that it has gone through, because now other people get to read it. And then let's say there are other people that have a big interest in it that own a film company or animation company or something like that. Then they want to take it and put it in their format. So that's another state that it goes through. Then this goes out to a large amount of people. They listen, they watch, they enjoy, they talk about, they converse. It gives them inspiration. It makes them feel good or whatever it makes them feel. That is another state of bringing it into reality, because I noticed it for myself. When I'm reading comic books, I've read comic books for years. These characters, these places, these concepts, they'll always be with me. And they're always a part of my psyche. When I'm writing raps, when I'm doing anything, it's always that. When me and my kids went to Universal Studios, we're literally at the theme park and we're talking about these things. Because and some of the verbiage that we use to playfully banter back and forth with each other has to do with that. I remember one time we went and we're in the Harry Potter area, and I am purposely mixing up fictions, like use the Force, Harry, stuff like. And my kids are saying, "You're going to crash the realm, the barriers between worlds, if you continue to do this." Right? So these things, they have different states of existence, and I think that your main goal as a creator, is to crystallize this into reality as far as you can get it.
I think that's a great imperative to have if you're an experienced creator.
Yes.
I'm not saying that not everyone should try this. But let me ask you guys a question that might pertain to people just getting started. Because I know there are a lot of people who may look at what we do and they're like, yeah, but like you guys have created like all this stuff. And like, but how do I get started? Like what?
Yeah.
I don't know where to begin. What do I do to begin? And I'll kick this off by saying, try not to think of it as you're beginning something. Pro wrestling and soap operas are very similar in the fact that you're never going to go back and watch the beginning of something.
Right.
In that, right? I'm not going to go back to 1950 57 or whatever when they start filming pro wrestling and then catch up on literally every single story. I'm not going to do that. Same way as if I'm watching General Hospital, I might go back a couple years. I might go back a couple seasons, but I'm not going to go back 20 something seasons. That's just not going to be a thing. Right. I'll pick up the story from here. Right. So think about it as a creative of like, you're just picking